Hi everyone, it's Jamie, and today we're gonna do a little bit of a different video, something that I haven't done before. So this is gonna be your one-stop shop for tips about buying a camera for the first time or upgrading, that kind of jazz. The video is gonna be split into 7 parts. Each part has a time code below in the description, so if it's something you're already familiar with, you can skip over it onto a part that you're not so familiar with. Let's begin. The topics that you need to consider before buying your first camera are the types of camera that you can buy, the sensor size in the cameras, frame rate capabilities, resolutions, hardware specs, lenses, and brands. So, I'm sure you're aware that there are many types of camera out there. There are DSLRs, compacts, mirrorless, action cameras, and very recently, drones, which are cool AF. DSLRs are probably the most common in terms of people looking to start their photography or their videography interests. DSLRs are great because they come with a kind of big body, they have a traditional kind of look to them, there's a really wide variety of them. You can attach and detach different lenses in terms of what kind of look you're going for, and they have a very wide price range depending on what you're after. Compacts are a little bit different. Normally there's something you can just pull straight out of your pocket. The lens is normally not detachable, and it's kind of something that you would have, say, if you just wanted to take some decent photos on a family holiday or something like that. If you're not looking to blow the budget too much, a compact might be where to go. Now, mirrorless is something that I am shooting on right now. I am shooting on a Sony a5000. Mirrorless, unlike DSLRs, do not have a little system of inverted mirrors on the inside that send images to the sensor. It is all digital. The kind of technology behind it does stump me a bit, but hey, it does give you a different look to DSLRs. Action cameras are something like a GoPro, which are really small and very, very tiny, even more so than a compact. You can put them in weird places, you can mount them to skateboards and cars and surfboards and take them underwater and take them in the snow, and they're really, really cool if you're into kind of action photography, videography, hence the name, and also really, really great if you're looking to have something that is sturdy and that is really easy to take around with you. Drones are something new on the market in the past couple of years, and again, there is a very wide variety of price ranges. Some have cameras attached to them, some you can attach your own cameras to. Essentially, they've got propellers that send it up in the air and shoot some really awesome aerial footage. Or you can get them to follow you. You can get them to do a wide variety of things. And I think they are amazing. Now, different people will have different needs for cameras. Some people might need a combination of these cameras. Some people might be looking to get an all-in-one. So what are other things that you should be taking into account when purchasing one of these cameras? One of the things I wish I had known when I was first buying my DSLR, right behind me, is something about sensor sizes. Now, the sensor size is important depending on what you're after. You can get a full frame sensor camera or you can get a crop sensor camera. Essentially what that means comes down to lenses that you attach to your camera. With a full frame sensor, when you attach a full frame lens to it, you are going to get a whole picture. And for the namesake, a crop sensor does crop in an image. So say I had a really wide lens on, which I don't right now, but for sake of argument, pretend I did. Now, if this was a crop sensor camera, it is going to crop me in a little bit here and probably a little bit here. It's not going to allow that lens to show you the full kind of image because it's just not capable of doing that. Full frame sensor cameras are often much more expensive than a cropped frame sensor. This little beauty back here with 2 lenses with it cost me about $800 back in 2012. That thing would probably, it's probably like worth about 200 bucks right now, if that. And then something with a full frame sensor you'd be looking at might be something like a Canon 5D. Again, it all depends on what you want to do. There is an argument out there that the lens is more important than the body you attach it to. If you attach a really nice glass to a subpar DSLR, you might still get really high quality footage, even if it is cropped. Again, it depends what your needs are. If you're attaching a really nice wide lens with the intention of getting a nice wide landscape shot to a cropped sensor camera, you're probably going to want to upgrade there because you're not going to be getting the best out of the lenses that you've purchased. Frame rate capabilities are something really important to consider if you are someone into videography. Now, as someone who is an avid lover of a crisp slow-mo, again, I wish I had known about the importance of frame rates in DSLRs specifically. The best way I can explain frame rate to someone that's kind of new to it is that when you press record on a camera and you start filming a video, the camera interprets movement as 24 frames per second standard. So that is gonna take 24 photos in a second, and when that plays it back, it looks like movement, magic. So the more frame rates you can fit in a second, when you slow that footage back down to a 24 frame per second kind of viewing experience, that's when you get really nice slow-mo. The more photos that are kind of taken within a second, the smoother it's going to be, because obviously the more data the clip has to work with. So if you're someone that is really into that slow-mo footage, getting something with 60 frames per second is okay, I guess. That's kind of what my camera does, but bumping that up to 120 frames per second to even 240 frames per second is gonna do you some good. Now, we can't talk about frame rates and slow-mo and all that beautiful jazz without also discussing resolution. Most cameras nowadays have the capability to shoot 180p HD. I would not advise to buy a camera that doesn't shoot this. It's kind of pathetic if it doesn't. One of the things that is kind of an argument or a debate in the photography, videography world is the use of 4K. Now, I personally don't care too much for it, but I can see where 4K would be useful. 4K basically means that you're interpreting more footage. So the closer you zoom up on a subject, the actual more footage that is going to be there, the more kind of pixels. It's the same kind of thing that if you watch a video on YouTube at 480p, it is just gonna look a bit blurry and a little bit fuzzy. It is basically how much data your camera can interpret. Now, depending on your uses, I think this is a really valuable asset in a drone camera to be able to shoot 4K, and also in action cameras. Also, if you are buying a camera with the intent of shooting short films or something like that on there, 4K is a really good thing, especially if you plan on putting that video or that short film up on a big screen. Every little detail counts. Again, the 4K argument comes down to what you're going to be using your footage for. Now, jumping onto hardware specs, there are some things that I would recommend forking out the money for 100%. When I was a youngin' and I bought this little lad over here, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna vlog. That's not why I'm buying this camera. I don't need a flip out camera. Why would anyone need that? Was I wrong? This thing, it doesn't flip out. It is the most annoying thing. I can't vlog with this, hence why I had to buy another camera so that I could see myself. And anytime I want to set up to shoot this little baby, I have to either set it so close to me that I can reach up and press the focus myself, and I have to set up everything kind of without me in the shot, and it is really annoying. That point kind of leads on to another. It's not necessarily a hardware spec, but it is something important to consider. Fork out money for continuous autofocus. This has it. It's awesome. Look, I just move around. It's not the best of continuous autofocus, but it is so good to have continuous autofocus, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any plans to shoot and put videos on YouTube, continuous autofocus is the best. And also just generally, you want to shoot anything with people running or action sequences or sports, get it. It is well worth the money, rather than having to set everything up yourself or set focus marks and zoom it in yourself and that kind of thing. If you're intending to be in front of that camera a lot, it is well worth the money, I promise you. Something that this camera does not have, as it is a mirrorless, is the ability to have an audio input jack. This DSLR does, which is really, really cool, but not every camera does. Now, again, if you're just someone looking to do photography, it might not bug you too much. Now, I have a really quiet space generally to be able to shoot in, so I'm lucky enough to not necessarily need a microphone for this camera, but I can see where it would definitely come in use. Again, think about what you need your camera for. Do you want to be forking out money for an audio input device instead of just being able to plug it into your computer? It is up to you. Some cameras have really crappy audio, some cameras do not. It's just a thought. If you're going to be shooting in 4K a lot, I would also recommend getting a camera that has a good battery life, or investing at least in multiple batteries, or also something that has dual SD slots. This will come in really handy if you are on the go shooting a lot of large files rather than having to swap out a SD card and pop in a new one. If you've got multiple ones in there, it does save a lot of time. Now, I'm not going to go too in depth with lenses just because that could be a video in and of itself, but I will say that there are a variety of lenses that you can purchase. There are wide lenses, macro lenses, prime lenses, there are zoom lenses, telephoto lenses, and there's also a little thing called a fisheye lens, but I'm not going to discuss that too much because I think they're ugly and I don't think that they should exist. Again, the lenses that you're going to buy well and truly depends on your budget. It also depends on what you want to use your camera for. Wide lenses are good for outdoor kind of landscape photography, and also can be really nice when shooting short films or cinematic type videos. Macro lenses are great for if you want to get up close and get fine details on things. Prime lenses are fixed. They can often offer you a really kind of cinematic look. The only drawback to them is that they don't kind of have a zoom feature, so anytime you want to shoot with prime lenses, you have to physically move yourself in and out from a subject in order to be able to get focused. Zoom lenses are personally my favorite lenses. You can have a variety of kind of focal lengths in one. You can go from an 18mm kind of lens to a 55mm lens, all in like a turn of a hand. It's really useful if you're a bit tighter on money and you want to kind of have a lens that does a bit more. Telephoto lenses are great if you want to stalk your neighbor that lives a block away from you and you just want to look in their window. No, telephoto lenses are really great for kind of wildlife photography, for stargazing. They're super expensive, super big, like really, really big. And again, fisheye lenses, we're not going to talk about them because they're ugly and they're stupid and they shouldn't exist. Other things to look into with lenses are the kind of f-stop capabilities of this. Now, I'm not going to go too much into depth with this, but essentially something that is with a smaller f-stop means not only can you shoot in low light much better and get nicer photos, but it also means you can have a nicer kind of depth of field, which is basically a blurriness behind your subject. Last but not least is brands. Now, there are a lot out there, and personally I think it is a very personal thing what brands you decide to go for. There is Canon, Nikon, Sony, Panasonic. There is a lot out there, and even more than I've mentioned. If you're gonna go with Canon, definitely their lenses are above and beyond everybody else. However, they do kind of lack in updating in some tech respects. Sony is definitely on the forefront with that. They have a lot of cameras with 4K capabilities, with really high frame rates. Their lenses aren't necessarily up to par yet, but if you're looking for a lot of updated tech aspects, Sony is kind of where it's at. I personally can't speak too much for the other ones because I've never owned or been interested in other cameras. But again, when you're looking at brands, just look at a wide variety, because there are so many cameras out there and so many things to think of. There are going to be certain brands whose cameras are better for photography, and certain brands whose cameras are more suited towards videography. Lastly, just a few tips from me. Basically, this video is here to help you compare, you know, what kind of things in a camera that are useful and things that I wish that I had invested in. At the end of the day, not everyone is going to be able to buy a camera with every one of these brilliant features in them. It is basically about working out what features to compromise on and what you should definitely dish your money out on that will be an investment in the future, which is what a camera should be. I know that not everyone can afford to buy 2 cameras, can afford to buy 3, can afford to update every time there is a new lens or that kind of thing. So definitely, when you're going to fork out a decent amount of money for a camera, make sure that it has the things that you need. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you guys. I'm sure there are definitely things that I've missed out. I would love for you guys to start a discussion in the comment section below about things that you personally wished you had have known before you bought your first camera, or things that you are looking out for. And if you have also any other questions that you think I could answer for you, go ahead and ask away. You guys know the drill. Like and subscribe and follow the social medias. I just like to say thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.